Welcome to the Wax Audio Show. Since the dawn of humanity, people have found ways to preserve their memory for future generations. Sharing tales around the fire, painting the walls of their caves, committing ink to parchment, and immortalizing stories of old in song. From Herodotus in ancient Greece to the professional historians of our own time, these bards and scribes have shaped our understanding of the world. Through countless centuries, across the globe, they have recorded our story. It is the story of world history. At the beginning of the 1980s, a new group of historians appeared who would spread their version of history to devoted audiences around the world. They weren't from the Marxist school or the Cambridge school. In fact, they mostly skipped school. They were from East London, part of the new wave of British heavy metal, and unlike any historians the world had seen or heard before. They were Iron Maiden.
You'll take my life, but I'll take yours too. You fire musket, but I'll run you through. So when you're waiting for the next attack, you better stand, there's no turning back.
Iron Maiden aren't like other bands. They don't sing about sex or drugs or rock and roll. They sing about the reign of the pharaohs, the spread of Hellenism, and the famous wars that have shaped civilization.
Iron Maiden is a band that's responsible for actually promoting interest in history amongst a generation of suburban kids.
That's Dr. Alexander Cook, historian at the Australian National University, and like us, a big Iron Maiden fan.
They stimulate the imagination of young people and sometimes older and increasingly greying people who might not otherwise think to look beyond that kind of framework.
Dr. Cook's a very old friend of ours, and we recorded the conversation you're about to hear at his house, where a framed Somewhere in Time poster takes pride of place in the living room, flanked by shelves of well-thumbed history books. There's no better person out there to guide us on a tour of world history as told through the words and music of one of the finest exemplars of heavy metal. So pour yourself a pint of Trooper Lager and tilt back your reclinable armchair as we bring you episode 5 of the Wax Audio Show, The History of the World According to Iron Maiden. Starting with prehistory, that was Quest for Fire from the album Peace of Mind, written by Steve Harris, about man's quest for fire.
Should we just address the elephant in the room here to start off with?
Yeah.
By my rough calculations, and this is really just through a Google search because I'm no historian myself, Google informs me that it was approximately 65 million years between the age of the dinosaurs and the dawn of humanity. I mean, that's probably give or take some rough numbers. It's Google and me.
Give or take a few million, yes.
So when the start of this song starts with In a time where dinosaurs walked the earth, when the land was swamp and caves were home, in an age when prized possession was fire, to search for landscapes men would roam. That's probably a stretch.
Can we finalise this right now? Did humans and dinosaurs ever share the earth at the same time?
Definitely not.
Definitely not.
Was there any animal that maybe shared some genetics with dinosaurs?
Yes.
I mean,
there are descendants of the dinosaurs walking amongst us today. We eat their eggs regularly for breakfast.
Yeah.
The closest living relatives of dinosaurs are birds. And, there are various, early crocodiles coexisted with dinosaurs. Lots of the insect species that are still around today were around in the time of dinosaurs.
Okay, so there are earthlings, if you like, that did share time with the dinosaurs that still exist today.
Yes.
But definitely
not ones
human.
that were questing for fire.
Definitely
or living in
no.
caves. No. So Harris is certainly making some kind of amalgam of the two eras that we generally think of, significant eras we generally think of prehistory, the dinosaurs and the dawn of humanity.
And Bruce Dickinson, who had a private school education and went to university.
I don't think he actually attended very much,
Right.
but he studied history at Queen Mary University in London.
There you go. He would have had history books in the house.
Indeed.
When Steve Harris hands you this lyric sheet and says, sing it, and that's the first thing you see, is he just going, well, I'm just glad to have this gig, so I'll just sing it?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I think, when Steve Harris hands you a lyric sheet, you don't ask questions. You just open the pie.
There's an amount of poetic license going on here, and it sounds cool.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you could interpret it metaphorically. This is a reference to the age of Titans.
Yeah,
They may not be
yeah.
literal dinosaurs, but these are, the great beasts of the before times.
This brings us to a point that we're going to revisit a few times today, I think, because this song was based on a film, a 1981 French film by a man named Jean-Jacques Annaud. And in turn, that film was based on a novel written by two Belgian brothers. It was published in 1911. Both of these were called, in their respective languages, A Quest for Fire.
14 years ago, 2001, A Space Odyssey was the astounding epic that aroused a generation, telling them where they might be headed. Now, 20th Century Fox presents a science fantasy adventure that will arouse this generation, telling us where we might have begun.
At this point, Steve Harris says, "Hold my beer." Orders his wife to go and get his notepad and his bass. "I've just had a great idea for a song. Diddly diddly doo."
I picture Steve Harris permanently sitting on his couch in his shorts and West Ham top with a bass on his knee and the telly on and whatever the movie of the week is. Oh, yeah, that's pretty
He's
good.
got a bottle of Trooper Lager. It's his rec room, like his man cave, his pool room.
Yeah.
So there's gold records along the walls. There's a pool table. There's like one of those like 1980s rear projection large screen TV. And he's got like HBO, like Sky or something, flicking through the channels.
And a killer VHS collection. He'd have a shelf full of them.
Yeah.
Later on, he's probably got a subscription to the History Channel and cable.
Absolutely.
So this Quest for Fire movie would have come across his telly at some point and inspired him. Although I'm pretty sure I had a flick through this movie on YouTube. Where you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. And I specifically kept an eye out for dinosaurs. I didn't see any. I did see a mammoth, though. I did see a mammoth in the film. So there you go.
Well, mammoths were alive at the same time as man.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I believe mammoths were alive until a couple of thousand years ago.
I think they started to disappear at the end of the last ice age, which is about 10,000 years ago, but it was a slow disappearance.
Alex, can you maybe explain to us a little bit about the significance of fire and humanity and civilization? Was it the greatest discovery of all time, or?
Arguably, certainly, and it's symbolically important. I mean, I've heard one definition offered of humans, which I find quite interesting and kind of symbolically plausible, is that humans are the cooking animal.
Right.
And that, fire symbolically represents a seemingly unique capacity to kind of harness nature and to bend it to our purposes. And fire is practically important because it allows you to cook food, which makes it safer as well as tastier. It allows you to make weapons. It allows you eventually to harness metals, to turn ore into metal.
Control the environment.
Absolutely. It provides heat, so it allows you to live in hostile environments. It provides protection from animals. It provides a vehicle for hunting. So if you look at, famously, Indigenous populations in Australia who manage landscape and have for tens of thousands of years using fire to regenerate the forest and the landscape, but also to effectively herd animals.
Chase the animals out of the scrub.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a very important part of human development.
Was there a quest for this fire?
Who knows? It's
These Neanderthals, did they quest for the fire?
These days historians are very iffy about the history-prehistory distinction because it's perceived as pejorative. You're kind of belittling the caveman. But one of the things that conventionally defines the difference between history and prehistory is writing, because once people start writing stuff down, you can know what they thought and what they did and about individual events in a sort of different way. So trying to reconstruct the questing is hard to know. But societies that have fire value fire. It's clearly the case that the spread in the use of fire is a process that took hundreds of thousands of years. And modes for making fire are different in different parts of the world because culture evolves differently. And, in one place they'll use, flints. Somewhere else they'll use rubbing sticks together.
Yeah.
Well, whilst it's still up in the air and open for debate, I'm going to stick with the Steve Harris school that there was a quest for this fire and men searched across the land and finally obtained it.